bitch. Why you rape the girl then?
Yeah, the nigga cried after he raped somebody.
I hate people like that. Like, just own up to it if you gonna do it too. I hate watching this
Look
shit,
at his
bro.
face. Look at his face. Like, he already knew he was cooked, chat. Already knew he was cooked. Like,
Ew.
yeah. Yeah.
The poor mom.
The poor mom.
So we're here. We're obviously going to place you under arrest. There's a warrant for your arrest. We're going to take you to the jail. I told your mom that she can contact a bondsman.
A tearful teen is taken into custody after committing brutal crimes against girls he dated. He may look meek in police body camera footage, but police say he assaulted, raped, and even strangled fellow teenagers. And a surprise sweetheart deal took his prison term from a possible 70 years down to 0. We're taking a closer look at how the teen and his mom reacted to police taking him into custody. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
0 years. How you get 0 years? How you get 0 years?
Hey, before we get into this episode of On the Case, I want to talk about our partner and sponsor, Upside. This is a free app that gives you cash back when you buy daily essentials like gas and groceries. Water, Oklahoma, entered a no contest plea to 11 heinous charges, including rape, attempted forced oral sodomy, and more. He was staring down a nearly 80-year prison sentence, but in a shocking twist, the court agreed to grant Butler youthful offender status, and instead of going to prison, Butler went home with instructions on how to complete counseling and community service requirements. Butler's exact treatment plan, it's sealed in the court record, but the district attorney's office released this statement.
I'm gonna say this right now, nigga. I don't give no fucks. If he was any other race other than white, they would have fried his ass, nigga. Ain't no way he really life raped these girls and shit, and he just get off with no years at all.
Strangled.
Offender sentence imposed against Jesse Butler requires him to complete his rehabilitation plan successfully, including an aggressive schedule of therapy with a specialist in sex offender treatment, and should he fail, he faces reclassification as an adult and a sentence of 10 years in prison. The change in punishment sent shockwaves through the community. It devastated the two girls who had gone to school officials to report what Butler had done to them. A mom of one of the victims told the outlet Tulsa World that the families were completely against youthful offender status from the beginning and said that it was their understanding that the prosecutor trying this case would not accept a deal like that. Photos have been released showing one of the victims in the hospital after apparently repeated assaults by Butler. The victim's family says she ended up needing surgery because of severe damage to a vein in her neck. There are calls for the judge who approved Butler's deal, Special Judge Susan Worthington.
Who the fuck is this bitch? Got on shoulder pads and shit. If you the judge that gave this nigga 0 time, bro, you need to get your job taken.
For okaying this deal. Now, in just a moment, I'll talk to a judge who has advocated for youthful offender programs to discuss whether this one is a step too far. But first, I want to let you know what two official affidavits have to say about Butler's behavior and how he reacted when he found out he'd actually be taken into custody. According to the first affidavit, a 16-year-old identified by her initials LS told a school resource officer in September of 2024 that she dated Jesse Butler for a few months earlier in the year, and that during that time, he physically and sexually assaulted her multiple times, including trying to rape her inside his car outside an ice cream shop the previous February. The affidavit reads, quote, LS reported she yelled and told him no repeatedly and tried to push him off of her, but was unable to overpower him. LS reported Butler told her he was sorry for what he had to do, but he had to do it. LS recalled hyperventilating because Butler intended to have sexual intercourse with her and she did not want to. According to LS, a woman must have heard her screaming because she walked up to the car and interrupted them. LS told police that Butler told her that if the police came, they would both be in trouble. He reportedly took her back to his home where her car was parked and tried to rape her again. The affidavit reads, quote, LS told Butler she needed to get home, but Butler pulled her on top of him and told her, you're not going until I'm finished. She said she was able to get away and go home, but this wasn't the only time that an adult may have witnessed Butler trying to assault LS. The teen says that she was at the Butler home in their movie room when Butler took his clothes off and tried to have sex with her. She says Butler's mom came to the door asking if everything was okay, but the affidavit doesn't say anything else about her reaction to what she might have seen or heard. In late February of 2024, Butler reportedly strangled her because she refused to have sex with him. The affidavit says, quote, LS reported she was hyperventilating and then recalled her vision being blurry and she was dizzy. She reported her head immediately hurt and she was confused about what had occurred. She was scared of Butler, but when she regained consciousness, Butler was laughing at her. Following this incident, LS reported she had a handprint and an injury on her neck. Butler and LS apparently broke up in March 2024, and he started dating a girl identified as KS, and his disturbing and aggressive behavior allegedly continued. A second affidavit details the assaults KS says she suffered during the relationship. Quote, KS reported Butler had left bruises on her hips from squeezing her so tightly. KS reported the intercourse was extremely aggressive, but she reported she quickly stopped fighting it because Butler would overpower her and hurt her to get his way. KS explained that she learned what to and what not to do to avoid being hurt by Butler. According to KS, Butler would pin her down and she was physically unable to get him off of her. KS stated this would often lead her to hyperventilate, which Butler thought was funny. According to the affidavit, Butler also strangled KS so long that she eventually passed out. She reported she woke up on the floor of the living room in a home where she was house sitting. She claims Butler was livid that she wouldn't have sex with him in someone else's home, so she says he raped her instead. Later that same week, KS reported that Butler choked her again, and it's for a sick reason. The affidavit says, quote, KS stated Butler told her he wanted to strangle her so he could film it on his phone. And if you can believe it, police found that video on Butler's phone, which showed him choking KS until she passed out. Butler was charged in March 2025 with 10 counts, and 11th was eventually tacked on when he reportedly violated a protective order. We got our hands on body camera footage from Stillwater Police that shows officers arriving at the Butler home and taking the teary-eyed young man into custody.
Now fuck that nigga crying.
Obviously tell our story too. Yeah.
They're not crack his mom, nigga.
Give me your, well, okay, it's fine. It's not locked or anything, is it? Okay. So, can you tell him what you just told me, or? Yeah. So we're here, jail. I told your mom that she can contact a bondsman, and you shouldn't be very long. But there just is a process for paperwork and stuff. But right now, you do have to come with us, and I do have to put you in handcuffs. So turn around for me.
Getting no pussy ass nigga, bro.
And if you'll just contact her, then she, Stillwater Police Department on Lewis. Stillwater PD.
$1,000 her victim impact statement online, and it says in part, quote, I've had to carry this weight while going to school, trying to act like I'm okay. I've woken up from nightmares that make me feel like I'm being attacked all over again. I've had to explain bruises, explain silence, explain why I started isolating from people who loved me. You didn't just strangle me with your hands, you strangled my voice, my joy, my ability to feel safe in my own body. I will never forget the night you strangled me unconscious because I said no.
But
the moment changed my life.
Like,
a medical professional later told me that I was just
like,
30 seconds away from dying. 30 seconds. If you had just kept your hands on my neck just a little longer, I wouldn't be standing here today. That wasn't just a scare. It was a near-death experience. You didn't just hurt me, you nearly killed me. LS also addressed Butler's mom in death
was a bunch of extra
to Jesse's parents,
sorrow
I don't know
shit.
what you know. I don't know if you heard me crying through the walls or noticed how your son treated me when no one was looking. But I hope you hear this now. Your son hurt me in ways that cannot be undone, and I need you to understand that your silence, your protection of him, or even your denial, that would hurt too. Because someone should have stopped this. Someone should have seen the bruises and the fear. My colleague, Law and Crime's Jesse Weber, recently sat down with Justin Shepard, known on social media as Jeff.
If this clip don't go viral, I don't give a fuck. But for every female in the world, unless you get laced, stop letting these niggas just rape y'all, bro. Get that nigga dick in your mouth and bite that shit off. Or even pull it and run with it. Just run. He ain't gonna want to do nothing. He gonna be worried about the pain down there. That's as easy as you can get away from a rape as possible, bro. Just bite the nigga dick off or run with his dick. Pull his dick and run with it. I'm talking sprint like you trying to get up out of there. Like, act like you finna do something with it. Stop letting these grown men rape y'all just because y'all be trying to fight them. You can't fight a grown man. Think tactical. Think smarter. I want kicking balls and do all this. You know what I'm saying? If you don't get knocked out or none of that, and you just let a nigga overpower you and rape you, tripping, bro. And if I have a daughter, I'm telling her that since day one. Like, you get kidnapped and, you know, some shit ever bad happen to you, do this and do that and do this. Cause y'all just be...
Just in the nick of
I
crime,
never
he
had my
did some of the
daughter go
first
through some
reporting
shit
on
like
story
this,
and
boy.
spoke with people in Stillwater.
What have you learned here about how this is
Bite
even
that nigga
possible?
dick
Because I will
off.
tell you, there is a
Run
lot
with
of
this shit.
speculation online right now that the Butler family may have connections that may
Mom?
help him get this so-called sweetheart deal. We couldn't confirm that. What can you tell us?
So I've spoken with some of the families as well of both victims who came forward against Jesse. There is a third victim who, she hasn't come forward, but can you blame her when you look at this as the justice that they get? So there's a third victim.
Yeah, fuck
and
that. I'm not
kinda
coming
like you said,
forward either. Ain't no
speculation
point.
is that
Nigga got away
Jesse
with
Mac
it.
Butler's father is a man by the name of Mac Butler. And he was the head of football operations at OSU for, I forget how many years, but for a pretty long time. He's, you know, kind of a staple in that community. And when we're talking about Stillwater, Oklahoma, we're talking about OSU, for people who don't know, Stillwater is the town that Oklahoma State University is in. So there's a lot of things tied to that. You know, Mac Butler, it seems that he grew up there. His wife currently works for OSU. His daughter works for the public school system there. He was apparently had been hired as like a coach of some kind for Stillwater High School as well. So somebody with deep-rooted ties into the community, and that then leads you to the judge in this case, one of the judges in this case, Judge Susan Worthington. Between her and her father, the Worthingtons have had a hold on that bench for over 50 years. So while you can't necessarily say definitively that, hey, there's this connection here because he's deep-rooted in football, you know, she's a judge, they all grew up in the same town, that there's this kind of connection, but it's not really many difficult mental gymnastics to make that leap, right? That, hey, this is a town that requires
Weird
the college,
town.
needs the college to survive. It's very deep rooted into the system, that they're very much supportive of OSU for this whole kind of thing to be very close knit. And that's kind of what's being speculated, to the point that even it's now gotten the attention of one of Oklahoma's lawmakers, Representative J.J. Humphrey, who's also running for lieutenant governor. I'm actually going to be speaking with him later tonight, a little bit more details, but
Yeah, and if you can, I don't know if you've spoken with him already, but Representative Humphrey is talking, my understanding is about a potential investigation into this. Is this true? Is there going to be a formal investigation into what happened?
My mama.
It sounds that way, yeah. So he kind of looks at it from the same way. He was telling me that he's got a lot of background, in the court system and investigation before he got into politics.
I don't care what connection
and
they
he
got.
said, basically kind of the same thing that we were just talking about, that can
That
he
shit
say definitively
weird.
or can he prove right now that there's a connection? No, but his exact words, but it sure as hell smacks like it. And so he's like, it's worth an investigation. So he's thinking about, wanting to put a grand jury together to do an indictment, possibly. The conversation we had, which we'll go a little bit more in depth, and I don't know if that could bring additional charges against Jesse, because when you look at the litany of charges, there are some that should have been on there that weren't. Like, in my opinion, as not a lawyer, why he wasn't charged with attempted murder when one of the girls was near death for what he did. And
he choked a girl on video, bro. Like, huh? Oh, no cap, bro. That should be attempted murder, nigga. Like, what are we doing? How did this nigga get away with this, bro? I swear to God, if he wasn't white.
Those are kind of the...
He wasn't white.
I already know the mom is so ashamed of how she raised this kid, bro. Because what the fuck? That goes straight down to the parents. Because how the fuck do you not respect women?
That too, like, she just probably let her son always dog her.
Literally. She was okay with it. Dumbass hoe.
Nigga, now he think he tough guy with the bitches, bro.
Conversations, but he feels that not just
Look
Stillwater,
at his ugly ass smile,
county,
bro.
Payne
Get that
County,
nigga on
and
my
then other
screen.
places in Oklahoma, there's a lot of, I mean, he said it flat out. There's corruption, and he believes that this is no different than that. And it merits an investigation.
Joining us now to talk more about this case is Judge Brandon Birmingham from Dallas, Texas. Thank you, sir, for being with us here on Law and Crime.
Because why ain't they showing his dad face?
Offender
they showing his mom.
Which is what the defendant received in this case. Just first explain, I know this is something that you know well about in your district where you work as a judge.
Law and Crime corrupted too.
Offender status?
It is a status that's assigned really to those that are juveniles or on the cusp of being a juvenile, where the punishment for certain crimes is lesser than it would be for an adult. And they have certain programs, certain conditions under the law that.
Bro, if he was black, he would get charged 80 years, nigga.
It's a little different.
Because in this case, the defendant was 18 years old at the time that this deal was reached.
If he was white, he would have got 80 years,
15
bro.
years old or 14, where this would be a juvenile case. How does the youthful offender status compare to what you might see in a juvenile case?
It's just a function of punishment. You know, I think there's the idea in assessing a punishment that, those that are younger are more likely to make mistakes and need to learn from those mistakes, as opposed to somebody who's, let's say, in their mid-20s or maybe in their 30s, or, that's an adult that we expect them to behave in a certain way, and there's, maybe not.
Bro, he grown as fuck, bro.
In a formula, but I think when considering what a person's punishment ought to be, somebody's age and experience has always been taken into account.
In this particular case, this was a no contest plea, so this was a deal that was reached between the defense and the prosecution. For you as a judge, just when these cases go through, and what is your role in this? Because I think for there to be in a case like this, where there is going to be criticism, and that's just the way it is, and I know with your job that there's always going to be criticism of the system in these types of cases. What is the job of a judge? What are you looking for if a prosecutor and a defense attorney come to you and say, we've reached this agreement that youthful offender status is what we're going to move forward with?
Well, the job of a judge really is to make sure that all of the processes are followed to a T, and that everybody, both sides has availed themselves to the opportunities under the law to be prepared and to have what they need in order to be prepared. So you're really at that point sort of an umpire that's just making sure that all the boxes have been checked. We do have the discretion and the ability to reject a plea, and if we reject a plea, then we don't get to just put our own stamp on it and say, I reject the plea and I'm going to sentence you to 50 years. Essentially what the rejection of a plea does is it takes everybody to square one and puts it on the trial docket. But that is an extraordinary remedy, and so what you're looking for at the plea is what information has led both sides to come to this agreement, and the judge has the ability, if they want to seek out that information. And because we do have the ability to say, no, we're not going to accept it. It's unjust, or it's unfair, or the process hasn't been followed.
And in this case, Butler could have received, if the maximum, if he had gone to trial all the way through, the maximum would have been roughly 70 years in prison. Instead, through this youthful offender status, he is going to have a treatment plan that he has to go through with different requirements that he's going to have to meet. But you look at what he was accused of in this case, and it's very difficult to read through. It was violent. What are some of the factors that a prosecutor and the defense attorney you're working with, when determining that youthful offender status is a good resolution for this, how does maybe violent tendencies, the threat of maybe reoffending, how does that go into whether or not this person would be a good candidate for this, as opposed to what could have been, the good majority of his life in prison?
Yeah, you're looking at a prediction of what you think might happen in the future, essentially. That's one component of assessing punishment or an outcome in a criminal case. And one of the ideas is that somebody's history will indicate how they're going to act in the future. And so when you're saying, okay, does this person deserve more, a lighter sentence or rehabilitation, you're asking yourself first, can they be rehabilitated? And is there still hope for them to be rehabilitated? That's one component of a very complicated and nuanced issue. The other one, of course, is what are the facts of the case? In other words, if somebody could commit a horrible crime, they might have all the potential to be rehabilitated, but the crime itself is such that maybe that they just need to be punished. And there's always that tension between what's best for the defendant on the one hand, what's best for society, and then, of course, what's best for the victim and what their voice is and how that voice is heard in the sentencing process. But all of it, to go back to your first question, the lawyers are assessing their cases, and you know, there's strengths and weaknesses in every case. And allegations are allegations. You've got to eventually, if you're the prosecution, line up your proof and make sure that you're right, because you don't want to lose. You don't want to even go forward if you're not right. And
bro,
so
allegations are allegations.
Of the quality of
There's a video of the nigga choking a girl. This shit blowing me.
By view of how the lawyers assess their case. And so, unfortunately, with a plea bargain, the public doesn't always have all of the information because there's no trial. You know, and the trial is why I love trials so much, is because you do get all the information. You get to see the witnesses, you get to judge their credibility, you get to see text messages or videos and all that. In a plea, the public really doesn't, so we are sort of left to speculate.
That's what I'm so confused about. Like, this shit has to be corrupted. How did the prosecutor and the defendant and the judge all agree on this plea deal for this nigga to walk free, bro? Like, what, bro? As the prosecutors, you're not even doing your job. How was the prosecutors pushing the plea the most anyways? Like, that don't even, this shit don't even make sense.
Myself, you know, plea bargains are functions of proof and your assessment of how strong your case is, whichever side that you're on.
And this is a case, and I think when you read the allegations against this defendant, you hear, you know, the victim impact statements. I mean, it's hard not to be emotional for what these girls had to go through. And I'm sure the judge who presided over this deal knew that there was probably going to be some criticism of it, considering there wasn't going to be 70 years.
Fat shoulder having ass. Looks like she got a hockey shirt on.
Not asking your opinion
big
of the
shoulder
decision
ass.
For youthful offender status, but just
Batista
as a judge,
shoulders.
I mean, it's so rare that we get to actually talk to someone who sits in the chair. How do you deal with some of those deals that may come across that you know are public, that may have criticism of it, and knowing that you're presiding over something that's probably going to get a lot of heat from the public and from people? Yeah, there is probably information we don't know in this case, but you know that there's going to be a lot of frustration from the public when it goes through.
And I've been in that situation before many times, some of it very public settings and some of it not public, but either way, you know as a judge that every decision you make, you're going to disappoint precisely half of the people that are looking back at you, and sometimes everybody. And so what you have to do is fall back on what your role is as a judge. And we are process followers. We make sure that the process is followed. We also make sure that
bro, it sound like he agreeing with this shit. I ain't fucking with this little bald head ass nigga, man.
United States, you know, we do have a reviewing body that looks at whether we did something that was outside of our processes. And we have to be held accountable for that, and we should be. There should be a transparency. I guess the call for an investigation, I think, into to some of, you know, what caused this plea to happen in Oklahoma. And I would hope that to the extent that it can be transparent and accessible to the public, that, and I'm sure everybody involved is going to take that responsibility very seriously and justify why they did it, or at least make sure that there was nothing outside of that zone of discretion that played into this.
For Butler, once he finishes the treatment plan that he's going to be going through, is there any sort of monitoring of him that could continue on? Like, I think of someone who, you know, if he was 26 years old, he goes to prison, he might be a registered sex offender when he comes out, and he has to follow those guidelines. In many states, it would be for the rest of your life. In a youthful offender status situation like this, once he finishes the treatment plan, what would happen next?
Well, if he finishes it successfully, he doesn't go to prison. You know, I think that one of the parts of this is that he has to complete it, and if he doesn't, then he's looking at, I believe, up to 10 years in prison as a result of that. So there is some accountability for him to finish, but if he finishes it successfully, then then he's off of what is very similar, I guess, to like a probation. You know, he's off of that status, and he's free to live out the rest of his life.
And you know, and obviously too, I mean, anytime you Google his name, you know, for the rest of his life, there's a weight that comes with that, because he will be associated, you know, with this case, which is so difficult to hear.
Dumbass
when it comes
nigga.
to recidivism rates, and I know that that's always a big topic.
You about to rape again, bro? That's so retarded. Nigga never gonna get no pussy again. Gonna rape another girl. Why are we letting rapists walk the earth? Like, just let them walk free. No charge. Choke the girl on camera. Let him walk free, guys. Should not happen if he not white, bro. But y'all like comments with the guy. That's some bullshit.